Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Grace's free TOEFL test prep for you. My name is Whitney Farmer and I am your instructor for our class, as I have been for the last couple of months. I wanted to let you know today we're having a bit of a challenge on our microphone audio system. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit more slowly and a little bit more loudly, and hopefully it will be able to catch my voice well enough for you to be able to understand the conversation that I'll be having with you today. I am glad that we're here again, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being of great service to you during our time today. To begin, what we will be doing, gentlemen, if I can have you forward the slide. Today I'd like to do a catching up on our conversations that we've been having on our various virtual platforms. Now, what does catching up mean? To let you know, this is an expression that you will probably encounter if you're speaking with native speakers, whether they are American. I believe also some of those in Commonwealth nations also use this phrase, catching up. What it refers to is like in a race, a foot race, or even motorcycles or cars. As you begin, all of you are starting at the same pace and in the same group. But over time, some of those who are racing will go faster than others, some of them will go slower than others, and the group that is proceeding forward on that track begins to disperse and be in different places at different times. Well, if we say, I want us to catch up together, what it means is that we're going to be changing our velocity. And some people might already have information that I'll be going over. Some of you might not, whether it's because you've had some interruptions in your study time and you've missed out on some points, or whether you started with our class a little bit later than the others did. We want to make sure that all of us come together again, same group, and can proceed forward again with the same momentum. So that's what we say in English when we say catching up. Friends do this too. I'll call my friends and I'll say, hey, let's go for coffee and we'll catch up on what's been happening. Meaning that things have been happening in each other's lives and we want to make sure that we know what's going on. So catching up is a phrase you will hear in a business environment, an academic environment when you're going to be reviewing content, or in a social environment with the friends that you have now, or hopefully the friends that you'll make in your future time when you come to whatever country that you'd like to pursue your studies or your profession in. All right? So what I'd like to do now is, if you look at your screen, you see that this is a clip of one of the conversations that was posted on our WhatsApp group. Good morning. Is anyone here took the exam after August? So someone's asking, like we talked about, August 1, the TOEFL changed. So this person, Maris, wanted to find out if someone actually sat for the test and took it after the August 1 date when it was changed. As a matter of fact, Mirna did. And so she responded and said, yes, I took it. And Maris said, how was it? So, next slide, please. I actually posted the conversation that Mirna had after requesting her permission. I messaged her privately, and she said it's fine to post what was said. And I thought it was helpful, actually. So what you have here is what she wrote, both to Maris as well as to our group, all right? So she said, in my view, my point of view, the exam is a little different. First, the reading section, the number of questions decreased, so this made you more focused and not to lose your attention. I thought that was very interesting. So the reading section, in her opinion, was a little bit less difficult because it was a little bit shorter. So she had less difficulty staying focused to be able to answer questions. Excellent. Second, the listening section, she states, I thought it became hard because all the audio questions were canceled, or there was only one question only in all the lectures, and there was an arrangement questions, and these type of questions are so hard. So she had some challenges with the listening section. In a previous class, as we discussed, listening can be perhaps the most important part of your learning the language, because if you listen and can comprehend, then you're able to relatively easily speak more rapidly, and even if you make grammatical mistakes, you can write the language more rapidly if you comprehend what you are hearing. So also, consequently, because of accents, etc., consequently, listening and comprehending what is said is oftentimes the most challenging aspect of acquiring a new language. All right? Next, she stated that in the speaking section, it is not easy, but that they were not stressed in this section. And I'm wondering if that actually, I believe, is referring to the test being a shorter length of time. So therefore, just the physical toll of sitting for a test was a little bit easier on the new version because you weren't as fatigued from the challenges, simply the physical challenges of a high performance, high stakes testing event, because the sections were smaller. I thought that was very helpful. Next, please. There are a couple of other points, questions that were posted on WhatsApp I wanted to go forward as well, or comments. Also, this is the last part of what Myrna said. Finally, as you all know, the writing section is not changed, and another point in the reading section, all the hard questions like reference or the summary questions are still present. So she just wanted to emphasize that that's what she encountered, which is what was reported to us by ETS when they stated that the TOEFL would be changing as of August 1. So Myrna, thank you so very much for your response to Marisa's question, and thank you also for letting me post it so that all of us could benefit from it. Now, I wanted to show you, I actually took out who stated this because it was a private message to me. But the person who stated this, you're probably watching now, and I want to thank you for posting it because I think it brings out something that can be valuable for everybody as they're pursuing their studies. This is what was said. Finally, I want to take your advice in something. I know how you are so busy, but my friends told me to improve my speaking to get a job. And most of my friends who had jobs did not study well. I had 2 kids and I was so confused. What is your opinion about that? Now I try to increase the time when I recorded audios for me and correct them. Number 1, again, thank you. What I would like to encourage everybody to do, first of all, in our virtual communications, whether those are on our WhatsApp or Facebook or texting or what have you, I want to encourage you to be more formal in how you write your responses. So even though, like when I text my friends, oftentimes I'll use emojis, or I will just do quick, I'll say see you later instead of writing SEEYOULATER. I want to encourage you to take this opportunity to practice your writing grammar using accurate punctuation, verb, tenses, and sentence structure. So I just want to say that to everybody. Use our platform communications as another opportunity to practice your English building skills, all right? Now, that's just generally. What I would like to say in response to this comment, I think is beneficial to everyone. So this poor student really wants to do well, not just on the TOEFL, but she wants to acquire English. And she has friends who say, well, you should get a job, because when you work outside of the home, You have contact with people, you have to use English all the time, so you can learn it very quickly. And then she says, I have 2 kids. So the recommendation she's being given, which is accurate, if you do have more contact with people who are native speakers, then you will have an opportunity to learn more quickly. But in her circumstance, it's not practical. I, in my graduate studies, pursued and received a master's in business administration, right? One of the concepts, so I'm going to speak about some of the concepts through that program that actually how it apply in this educational environment. I think it's appropriate. One of the concepts in business forecasting models, or in scientific forecasting models also, is you put variables into a model and you predict outcomes. You look into the future and see what's going to happen. In a real accurate model, those who are building the model are really trying to refine it and figure out how they can make it as precise as possible. In every model, well, I'll say in almost every model, there are what we call constrained optimization. Meaning in a model for forecasting, you don't have one variable. You have multiple variables, and they don't necessarily have equal weight to drive the potential for failure or success. Some of those variables have a greater weight, a greater pull on the future prospects, right? In business, what you do is you figure out what's going to increase my productivity, or increase my profit, or decrease my costs, or put my competitor out of business. So you want to know which of those variables are most important, and then you want to figure out how to build those into your operations. That's what you are doing right now to the person who wrote this message. It is not practical for you to leave your kids at home and get a job. You have kids you have to take care of, right? At this time, because they're young, right? So what I would say for you, it's constrained optimization, meaning for your circumstances, there are ways to build in other practical strategies for you in your life, which will work best for you. Just leaving your kids at home with a bowl of water and some bread is not real life. It's not going to work. You need to have the time to take care of your children while in the midst of the constraint of your environment learning English. So, having interactions with people, not face-to-face, but in a virtual environment, is an option. Meaning, have friends who can Skype with you. Read interesting articles. Read them in your native language first, perhaps, and check your information with each other, and then practice speaking to each other in English. That can help. Make sure whenever possible, not just for your benefit, but for your children's also, that you have English language media playing in your home. Whether it is age-appropriate television when your kids are present, or music, or radio, or newspapers, or books, or magazines, or periodicals, whatever it is, make certain that English is present in your home. The nice thing about that is not only will you learn English, but your children will as well. And ideally, if you learn a language as a child, it's much easier. You actually have a neurological perfect storm of events in place that help children, for survival purposes, acquire very rapidly. And so your neurons are forming, your dendrites are forming, and your neurotransmitters are in place. Your palate is still flexible. There's many different things that can happen if you learn language as a child, as we've discussed. So your friends who are at work without their kids can't benefit like your kids can. So don't let people tell you, no matter what country you're from, someone's always going to tell you what to do. They're always going to say, oh, my opinion's the best. All right, so God bless them for giving you an opinion, sure. But don't let it feel like a burden to you. It's not appropriate for you, all right? You've got kids. So your circumstance has other benefits that their circumstances do not have. As you're learning English, your children can also learn English side by side with you. I think that's pretty great, because then as a family, you can grow together and succeed together. Yeah? All right, so that's what I would say. The next long message I just wanted to post to you. First of all, it was incredibly encouraging to me, and I think to our whole team, to see this message. Sharif Hakim, thank you, shukran, for this message. It was my heart just lifted. My countenance brightened by reading this. It was very encouraging to me. The reason I posted it is I wanted to make a statement about one part of it which just struck me. First of all, he was thanking all of us for what we're doing here, and you are most welcome. It is our pleasure and our blessing to be able to bless as we have been blessed. So you are welcome. But what I wanted to state here is he said that he's from Egypt, and he has a saying there. You have a saying in Egypt that talks about giving me a fish to learn how to do, or fishing instead. The reason that was important to me is my parents, as I've told some of you before in the past, my parents owned a restaurant for a number of years, a seafood restaurant. And we had posted in our restaurant a plaque, and it said, "Give me a fish and I eat for a day. Teach me to fish and I eat for a lifetime." Now, this apparently is also the same phrase or concept that is present in Egypt. So in Egypt, in Cairo, or in Fresno, California, that phrase is the same in both places. And that was very heartening to me. And that's part of what we're doing. Not just giving fish, not just, you hear people, as you're trying to study TOEFL, you'll get all these marketing messages. You know, we have the TOEFL test, we'll give it to you. Give us your money and we'll give you this test and you'll be able to cheat the test. All those horrible kinds of conversations. You don't want to do that, because again, the purpose of this test is to help you enter your profession and to be able to be successful in your profession in another country, or to enter higher education and not waste your tuition money, but to be successful in higher education. All right, so our goal is to teach you to fish, not just to give you a fish. All right, so, and also I was very heartened to see that we are very much the same, whether it's here in California or in Cairo. So thank you, Mr. Hakim. Next, please. This is another communication that was posted. I thought it was pretty straightforward. I'm looking for sources to practice full-length TOEFL IBT exams. Could you please help me with the practice website? Thanks. This actually was sent to me as a private message, which I didn't respond to necessarily privately for a while, but then I posted this on the WhatsApp group. This is a link that you probably see on your WhatsApp, also your WhatsApp groups. This is the actual link to the official ETS website for the TOEFL that includes a free practice test, full length, to give you a general experience about what it's like. All right, so that link is available on your WhatsApp. Next, please. And what I did is I took a screenshot of that link. And this is ETS's TOEFL website, and this is the screenshot for what it looks like. So you do have unlimited free access to take that test. It's one full-length TOEFL test. So it's probably one that has been used historically. And what they do is they'll rewrite the tests because the questions get out there and they want to make sure that people walking in are exposed to new information. So they retire questions. And so these are probably retired tests or retired components of a test, but it's a full-length test, and you can sit by yourself virtually in the privacy of your home if you've got kids, or if you're studying on your own, but you can take the test by yourself in an internet-based environment. All right, so this is what it looks like if you actually click on that link, and this is the official ETS site. Okay, next please. This is another thing. He or she wanted to know if there were free resources available, or I would say also low cost. You will know, as those of you are beginning to learn, if you're new to this, that the moment you say you want to study this kind of thing, you'll have all kinds of advertising coming into your environment. People will try to sell you books and classes and materials. And again, I go back to our original philosophy of the entire production of this class. You are welcome to buy anything you want to help you with your studies. However, this is an expensive process already. So I would like to encourage you instead to use as many free resources as possible and exhaust those resources. Become bored with them because you've used them so much before you buy anything else. The test already is expensive for many households. So I want you to use free resources first, but you can do whatever you want. If you want free or low-cost resources beyond the ETS official sites, here's a couple of ideas. You can shop at used bookstores. When I have in the past been doing my test preparation, I actually go to used bookstores first, and I look at those big thick manuals that cost you $50 somewhere else, and I can get them for $2 at a used bookstore. Less than a cup of coffee, right? So that's what I would recommend. Perhaps in your area you might have access to used bookstores, and especially if you're in an area where you have a college or a university nearby. What happens is students finish up with classes and then they'll sell their books and head on to their regular adventures. So oftentimes you can find high quality current materials at used bookstores. Again, particularly if you're in a college or a university geography, near a college or university within your community. You can also go to your local public library or to college or university libraries. You can actually go onto campuses even if you're not a student. Many places encourage that because they want to be a resource not just to their student population but to everyone. And what you can oftentimes do is go to the information booth at your local college or university, request a guest pass and a map, and they will show you how to get to the library, and you can enjoy your time there. Spend time getting to know the layout of it, because not only would they perhaps have TOEFL resources, perhaps other resources as well that will help you connect to that higher education community. All right? Next, please. Additionally, what I wanted to show, again, in terms of free resources, there is a Facebook group that you can join. This one, actually, some of my friends that I know in a virtual environment are already members of this group. Dimitra, who's a friend I met, she's actually in Greece, and I met her maybe 5 or 7 years ago when I was doing a massive open online class through the University of Edinburgh, and Dimitra and I connected through that, and she's one of the members of this group, so I trust it, to be honest. And this is the official ETS Facebook group. I will let you know that as part of this group, there are ratings that are given. People give their opinions of taking the TOEFL. Some of the opinions obviously are great. Some of them are really negative. And I think it's important that you read those, because I think it's important for you to have full information as to what you're facing. Some of you have no choice in going to the next step of whatever your life plan is. You must take this test and hit certain scores to take the next step. So I think it's important, though, that you have full information. Some of you might have other choices. You might not have to take the TOEFL. TOEFL is not the only assessment necessary in some environments. There are other substitute tests that you can take. And if you read the reviews here and you're not pleased with what you see, then I think that you also can look at other options as well. I just want to give you full information. I don't work for ETS, none of us do. And some of you might have an option to take a different test, and there might be some circumstances that would apply to you to make that prudent. All right, but here it is. So join the Facebook group and peruse the various resources and opinions and experiences, and again, it's free. Yeah? Next, please. Additionally, I don't do personally the Amazon Alexa infrastructure in my home, but some of you actually might have that system set up in your homes. So if you wanted, though, you do have a TOEFL Assistant, which can be installed to be able to access via your Amazon Alexa service. All right, just wanted to let you know that. Next, please. And that's a free, right? Unless you do the Alexa, which is different. This was posted by one of our student participants. It was a 2-page Google Doc, and I just took a screenshot of it, which I thought it might be useful for your future reference. It contained a number of different resources to improve your English with industry-specific vocabulary, which I think is very critical. For example, if you're going to be working in emergency medicine, you need to know how to triage a patient in English. You need to be able to ask a patient, are you in pain? What is your pain level? Do you have emergency contacts? Do you have family? What is your name? Because sometimes if someone has a head wound, one of the first things they'll ask is, tell me your name. These are things that as emergency health professional you'll need to know. Other professions might not need to know that, but industry-specific English is very critical, as you know. So this is one page, and then there's also an additional page. Next, please. So I just wanted to post those for you because I'll be posting this presentation on our various platforms, and you can use it for future reference, okay? So those are just screenshots. And if you actually pull up these documents, there are hyperlinks that will take you to websites or downloadable docs, etc. All right? Next, please. Again, I wanted to tell you that TOEFL is not the only exam that is available for those of you depending on what your particular circumstances are. TOEFL was created, it was built by the community, the educational, scientific, statistical community in the United States of America. IELTS was created in England, all right? So just depending on where a test was built, you try to be as objective as possible, and these people, they know what they're doing. They are high-level educational professionals. They know how to build things like this. However, there is a constant with all of these different assessment organizations or companies. There's a constant attempt to improve and eliminate bias from the assessment mechanism. But if you're building something in a particular country or environment, there's going to be some effects on that. What do I mean by that? The TOEFL, on the listening part, the voice that you'll hear will have an American accent. The IELTS or the ELITS test is built in England, so the voice you'll hear will be a British accent. Depending on where you want to relocate, where you want to begin your higher education, or where you want to pursue your profession, that might be a determining factor on which test might be of the most benefit to you. If you're going to be coming to the United States, because of the American accent aspect, TOEFL would probably be the best. And some reports are that people from many different countries say the TOEFL listening aspect is easier for them. And one of the reasons is that the American accent is an amalgamation of accents and language types from our immigrant history. So there are many different countries people from different countries who've come here, and the American accent reflects that. A British accent does not necessarily reflect that. But there might be some things in the British Commonwealth countries, whether they are Australia, New Zealand, Canada, etc., which might make one or the other test more or less beneficial to you. So I just want to let you know that there are other choices. Okay, next please. And then also there are some differences. Again, we were stating that, now this is where it gets kind of confusing, because any organization, these are all nonprofit organizations who build these tests. But make no mistake, there is a tremendous amount of revenue which is generated for all of those who are the owners of this intellectual property, all right? So if you read what they say about the test, it's interesting how the phrasing is. This one says TOEFL is the most common academic English test worldwide. But then if you read stuff about the IELTS, then you'll hear them say that it is the most frequently accepted test worldwide. And I'm wondering how they make those distinctions. But regardless, there are a lot of places that require either test and only a few that only require one of them. So you have a choice, I think, between those. But some of this, even though it's a scholastic, educational, nonprofit, academic environment, there are some marketing phrases that you will notice as you're investigating which tests will be most beneficial to you. And that's just the way it is. We're humans, right? Okay, next please. This is a little bit of a distinction between them. This talks about the test being 60 minutes long. The other one has a listening test of 30 minutes. Some of these are changed though because of the new times. I think that still though, I think the TOEFL is still longer time than the IELTS test is. All right, so next please. Then also here's a breakdown of if you have taken one or the other, you can actually compare your results. I don't know if you have, but you can actually can compare your results and see if you particularly, as a representative sample of one, you might actually perform better on one instead of the other. The TOEFL is done in a virtual environment. The IELTS is done actually face-to-face, is my recollection. So maybe you're better when you're looking at someone and face-to-face, and I'm not sure. It just depends on your user style. So you might actually perform better on one test than the other. As an example, another test that ETS has developed is called the SAT. And the competitor for SAT in America is called the ACT. And some students actually perform better on ACT as compared to the SAT for various reasons. So anyway, just to let you know. Each moment though in the high stakes testing moment are going to cost you money. So I'm trying again to save you money, but it's up to you. Next please. Now what I wanted to do here, all right, it's Sunday morning and we're here together, I guess you could say, and we've talked about different ways things that you can do in your life to help acquire English. Some of you don't have access to a native speaker of English. So you don't have the opportunity to have a conversation, a casual social conversation. So you don't have as much exposure to idiomatic expressions or to cultural trends. And so you're at a loss oftentimes if you are a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids who is intensely pursuing English, but you might not have a friend who speaks English, and so you can't just sit back and have a cup of tea. And so there is a disadvantage to you there. So I kind of wanted to do something a bit strange today. I wanted to have you imagine that we're all friends together and that we are sitting here on Sunday at a coffee shop or a tea house and we're having a cup of tea and we're going to read the paper together. I have my tea here, and on your screen I actually have some of the newspaper posted, which I currently have in my hand. The largest big paper close to where I live is the Los Angeles Times. I have my tea here, and I just want to talk with you. I want to go through the paper a little bit, like we would be sitting in a coffee shop. I just want to go through some things as I'm thumbing through it, and I want us to have some tea, pretending like we're face to face instead of in a virtual environment. And then I want you to think about, who do you have in your circle that you can do the same thing with if you geographically can't get out of the house, or if you are in a place where maybe there are barriers to education for you because of your physical constraints or your cultural background or the political environment or transportation. Maybe everyone's 100 miles away and you're very isolated. I don't know. But you can still have this kind of a social interaction, which, because hopefully the pleasantness of it, or interesting imagination and conversation and shared experiences, that you might perhaps help accelerate your acquisition if you talk with a friend. So today I'm your friend, and I'm drinking some pomegranate tea. Actually, that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed. I'm new to the in the area where I live, and one of the reasons why I'm having this time with you is because there is a very strong, wonderful, healthy Egyptian community in our area. And so I began having various interactions, and they've introduced me to pomegranate tea, which is delicious. And a long time ago, I used to study different, I still do, but in some sacred writings, I actually was studying about the history of pomegranates, because they appear in some sacred texts. And what I learned, I thought was really interesting, is that in some traditions there is a belief that a pomegranate, if you look at it, it has all these different seeds in it. And the idea is, the reason it was included in various sacred texts is it's to be a reminder that each of those seeds refers to a law of God, a heavenly law. And if you eat a pomegranate, each time you eat a seed, you are ingesting the law of God, the words of God, and they become part of your being. You're meditating on them. One of the terms meditate, like meditating on sacred writings, refers to a cow chewing her cud. And a cow, as you know, she'll chew for a while, she'll relax, and she'll chew again, and she'll chew again. She doesn't just chew and swallow. So when it comes to pomegranates, I remember thinking about that, the idea of just, ingesting things, ingesting ideas and truths or things that hopefully would make me a wiser, stronger, kinder, more humble person. So anyway, that's why I love my pomegranate tea that I get to share when I'm hanging out with Egyptians. So to the Egyptian community, shukran. Now, the paper here that I have here, this is the LA Times. And this is the front page today. This shows you what's happening in terms of my local culture. It talks about, the immigration challenge that many different countries face. We have African immigrants who actually are lined up along the border in Mexico and seeking to enter the country, and it's a big crisis. And it reminds me, I used to actually do some work with Haitian refugees who had appeared as asylum seekers, and they were in very desperate circumstances because of the earthquake in Haiti that leveled the capital. And they actually, at one time, they had been invited to the country of Brazil by the government to, if they were skilled craftsmen, they were invited to help build the Olympic complex, and in exchange, they actually were promised citizenship. So there were a number of these Haitians who emigrated to Brazil, helped build the Olympic complexes, but then after the Olympics were over, for whatever reason, there was a significant economic downturn in Brazil, and the government there canceled their promise to give citizenship to these Haitians. Well, at that point, these people didn't know what to do, and the people that I worked with, they ended up walking from Brazil to the border with America and presenting themselves to American authorities requesting asylum. So That's how I encountered them. So anyway, people are, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of different challenges. So when I started looking at this front page, I was thinking about them and being reminded of them. And so, yeah, and so you can read American newspapers. You don't have to have hard copy if you don't have access to it. You can actually subscribe to various American newspapers online, and so you can have a virtual copy arrive in your email, whether it's once a week, and you can just chew on it slowly, or every day even. So, and again, as for American papers, you tend to get nearly the full amount of what that article is about in the headline, the larger script typing, and then the first and second paragraphs. So if you don't have a lot of time, if you pick up an American newspaper and you can just have a little bit of time, you can read the headlines on each page, maybe the secondary line, which is a little bit larger type, and the first and second paragraphs of every article, and that'll give you a good survey of what's happening culturally in that section at that moment. If you have more time, if there's articles that catch your imagination or interest, you can read more in depth. So I just wanted to pose that question to you. Next, please. There was something that I thought was pretty interesting, actually. I live in Southern California, and as you can see, there's a wonderful pictorial in this section here about skateboarding. And so there's pictures here of skateboard parks where you have beautiful concrete areas. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but skateboarding received the new skateboarding culture in a way was reborn in the 70s in California. What happened is there was a convergence of a couple different events. There was a drought, and there was an energy crisis, and kind of a recession, an economic downturn. So the combination of drought, energy crisis, and economic downturn made a whole bunch of people who owned swimming pools decide they were too expensive to maintain. So they emptied their pools, or because of the economic downturn, some of them actually had their houses foreclosed on because they were property of banks, and the banks didn't want to maintain pools because they're expensive. They take water, they take power, they take chemicals, a lot of things. So a lot of these banks, they actually emptied the pools as the houses sat empty until they could find a way to find a buyer for them. So what happened was in Southern California, there were a lot of houses that were empty of people, and the pools were empty, so you had these concrete areas, and then you had a whole bunch of kids who maybe didn't have great supervision, and they were just kind of exploring the neighborhoods, and they found these empty pools, and they started on their skateboards doing this, I would say, a more modern style of skateboarding, where they'd go up on the lip and they'd do tricks and all that. Before that, skateboarding, I might be wrong, but I think skateboarding was more just on the streets, getting from one place to another. Straight shots, but on a level horizon. But in California, things changed because of the convergence of those three other issues. And that was, I would say, perhaps when the modern skateboarding culture began. It was a combination with this and punk rock too at the same time. So anyway, I thought these pictures are really beautiful, and there's a lot of places in Southern California now where it's not just empty swimming pools, where they actually have skating parks that look like this, where they're constructed like the old empty pools, so that people who are involved in skaters can mess around and increase their skills. So I thought that picture was great. Next, please. Oh, yeah, this is interesting too. Once upon a time, I used to work in the music field, and I still, to this day, I don't go to concerts as much as I used to, because I used to work in it. I used to, be up till 5 in the morning after working all night and settling with bands and dealing with everything necessary. But still, to be honest, to this day, there's times on Friday and Saturday nights, no matter what I'm doing, I'm not necessarily going out to a show, definitely not, but I still miss music on Friday and Saturday nights. So what I do actually is during the week, I tape on our TiVo, on our television, I tape concerts. And so then if I end up really missing it too bad, then in the middle of the night on Friday and Saturday night, if I can't sleep, I watch concerts. So that's still left over from before. So one of the people that you can see on your screen that I have never seen her in person. I heard an interview with her recently, and I've seen her performance, you know, on a couple different, just a couple clips of her. But she's with a band that used to be with a band called the Alabama Shakes, and she's now struck out on her own. Her name is Brittany Howard, and she's just got a tremendous voice, and I've been interested in her. She has quite a bit to say, and so anyway, so this is just a picture in one of the sections that this paper has. Each section kind of handles a different topic, and this is one of the sections. It's arts and books. So Brittany Howard is actually featured in the first page of this section. It also features information or a story on Benjamin Millepied, who's a significant presence in the dance world in LA, and he also is involved in film and television too. So anyway, next please. This is one of the reasons why I want to see this one play. Look at these pictures on your screen. This is in the newspaper, obviously. Look at her sing. I mean, she's just like, she's belting it out. She's got this power in her voice. I like so many different kinds of voices, so many different kinds of music, and she blends so many different cultural traditions, but then she's got this voice where she can just belt it out, as we say in America, belt it out, which means sing in a loud voice. It refers to your belt, like the power of the voice coming from deep in your abdomen, like where your belt is. So you belt it out, is what we say in America. So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully see this lady perform sometime in the near future. So anyway, next please. Another thing that I saw too, I live in California, I do, and one of the things I love about California, and I would love it if every person who's watching this someday could come to California and see the sequoia trees. It's hard for me to describe. I mean, I've seen the banyan tree in Maui, which is, you know, another extraordinary tree, but the sequoia trees in California they inspire awe every time. Since I was a child, every time I'm in the presence of these forests, I am silent with awe. They are so magnificent. Some of them are so large, there's one that they cut the middle of it out, and there's a highway that goes through it. It's that big. The trunks of these are enormous. They are so huge. This article is referring to there's a big push to conserve these trees. They are definitely called old growth, and because of the nature of what happens to the land in an old growth area, if these trees come down, that land is going to be difficult. It's difficult to grow this kind of a tree again. So the land is at risk of significant erosion and degradation because of that. So there are different conservation groups that are trying to figure out a way to save these trees. And so what they did, this group, they have raised $15 million to buy a huge private holding of where some of the world's largest giant sequoias are. And I was thrilled to hear that, because if these trees are gone, we can never find them again. They can never be replanted to the scale that they are at now. So I think it's worth it. I think that $15 million would be a good investment. Anyway, so next please. I think here's some other pictures of the sequoias and the areas of it. And also there's something when you are in this area of the forest, the air has a particular scent to it. It has just, you just feel, it just fills your lungs, and it's beautiful. So I would encourage you, if you have a chance to come to California and visit the sequoias, that I would recommend highly. So next, please. Also, let's see. All right. So like if we're friends, we're having a cup of tea at a coffee house, we're going to talk about our personal lives. On your screen here is just a screenshot from a movie that's being promoted right now. And it features this grand old house in England that has aristocracy and servants, and it's all the dramas that go back and forth. And it's interesting because I have friends who are in England, and they can't understand why in America we're so obsessed with this, but we are. So anyway, we've got this group of people, and it's in the 20s, so you can see the costumes they're wearing. Why do I have this posted? Well, because yesterday was my mom's birthday. And what Mom asked for her birthday was for the family to take her to that movie that you see on your screen and to have American hot dogs outside of the theater before. So that's what we did. So my mom had her birthday yesterday. Next, please. And again, we're friends, so I'm going to show you what this is like as a family. So this is my mom and I, and we actually, I got dressed up like in the 20s. I had this kind of like a 20s style dress with the long pearls or the long necklace and the hat, and Mom just wore her fabulous glasses. So we just had fun with it, and yeah, so we were dressed like this. And then next, please. We went to this theater that's here in Orange County, and it's a really beautiful place, and we just got a picnic table outside. Mom and I set up waiting for the rest of the family to show up, and we just had hot dogs, and we had Coca-Cola, and then Mom watched the children. Next, please. I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but there were a couple of kids I thought were pretty cute, and then we had hot dogs, as you can see, and we just had a great time. We really did. So she's just amazing, 84 years old, and she still can run faster than everybody. She's just absolutely terrific. Next, please. There were other people who actually were dressed interestingly in the 20s. We thought we were the only ones and unique. You will notice sometimes when Americans hang out together that we will be very outgoing and be comfortable doing some rather strange things. So there were a whole bunch of people going into that theater without communicating with each other, all dressed in costumes in the middle of the day. It was pretty fun. So that's what happened. This lady, as you can see on there, she actually was dressed in a beautiful flapper's gown. So anyway, I wanted to show you that too. Next, please. On a wall of this area where we went to see the movie, they were doing some construction, and so they put up this tapestry to hide the construction behind it, but it had a statement on it which I thought was very heartening, very important, that I wanted to share with you. The phrase said this: "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." I'm, as you know, a huge gardening, botany nerd. It's a part of my life, has been since I was a kid, and Lord willing, it always will be until the end. I learn a lot of lessons about the most important things in life in the garden, and this to me I thought was very telling. I told you how much I love the Egyptian community that I've had the joy of being welcomed into here. A conversation I had that I'm reminded of is a woman who came from Cairo, and she was telling me that she had sugar cane and corn in her garden, and she would sit with her daughter and they would drink tea in the garden, and if they couldn't finish their cup, then they would pour the tea into the garden, and it would help the plants to grow stronger. So what I would say to you is, in our time in the garden together as we share tea, then there is a hope for tomorrow. The reason you're doing this whole thing, the reason that we're involved in this whole process with you, is that we have hope for your tomorrow as well. Yes? Next, please. Your homework, dun dun dun, for next week is, during this time between now and then, I want you to read a newspaper that's in English. Whether it's in a coffee shop or in a library or in any other kind of public space, if you need to do it online for whatever reasons because you can't get out of the house, read an English language newspaper from any source. And then with a friend, I want you to talk about it. You can read it and talk about it in your native tongue to make sure you comprehend what you've read, but then share in English. Make sure you understand first, but then practice your English, talking about what you read in English afterwards too, okay? And then write comments, just like we've been reading comments online. Write comments about what you've seen too, on our WhatsApp or on our Facebook group or what have you. Write those down on one of our forums, and then we can use those to share also in our next time that we have together, all right? And our next class will be a week from today. It'll be next Sunday, September the 29th, and we shall meet again at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time until 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you again for the time that you've given us, and we would like to say until we have an opportunity to meet again, may peace be with you. Thank you.